I'm Michelle, 33, female. I live in a modern, brutalist-style apartment in downtown Chicago that I designed myself. By day, I am the principal architect and founder of Helix and Stone, a firm that has reshaped the city skyline. But to my family, I'm just still drawing pictures for a living. Here is the teaser. My aunt spent my entire life comparing me to her perfect son, treating my successful architecture firm like a cute little hobby while praising his entry-level corporate job. She told the entire family I was a failure compared to him. She didn't realize that the major corporation her son just got hired by was actually a subsidiary of my company, and I was the one approving his salary. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. The smell of charcoal and burnt sausages always reminded me of judgment. Every 4th of July, my mother's side of the family gathered at my grandmother's house in the suburbs. It was a tradition that I had tried to wiggle out of for 3 years running, but this year, my mom, Susan, had begged me to come. Just make an appearance, Michelle. She had pleaded over the phone. Patricia has been asking about you. It looks bad if you don't show up. Patricia, my mother's younger sister and the bane of my existence. Aunt Patricia was a woman who measured success strictly by how loud you could brag about it. She had never worked a day in her corporate life, having married a wealthy dentist who left her a comfortable alimony package, but she considered herself an expert on careers. I pulled my Audi up to the curb, taking a deep breath before stepping out. I was wearing a simple linen suit, expensive, understated, professional. I felt good. Helix and Stone had just landed the contract for the new waterfront museum. I was on top of the world professionally, but as soon as I walked into the backyard, the air shifted. Oh, look who decided to join us. Patricia's voice cut through the humid air like a circular saw. She was sitting on a lawn chair, holding a glass of cheap Chardonnay, looking me up and down with a smirk. Michelle, we weren't sure if you could get time off from your art projects. It's architecture, Aunt Patricia, I said, forcing a smile as I set a bottle of wine on the picnic table. And I own the firm, so I make my own hours. Right, the firm, she said, using air quotes. She turned to the rest of the family, including my quiet cousins and my embarrassed mother. Michelle is so brave, isn't she, pursuing the arts in this economy? It's so unstable, but good for you for trying. My jaw tightened. It's not unstable. We actually just closed a multi-million-dollar anyway, she interrupted, clapping her hands together. Wait until you hear about Tyler. Where is my golden boy? Tyler, my 25-year-old cousin, emerged from the kitchen holding a plate of burgers. Tyler wasn't a bad kid, historically. We used to play Mario Kart together when we were younger. But being raised by Patricia had done a number on him. He had grown entitled, slightly arrogant, and convinced that he was destined for greatness without actually putting in the work. Hey, Michelle, Tyler said, giving me a half-hearted wave. He looked good in a suit that was slightly too tight, clearly trying to project a business image at a backyard barbecue. Tyler, Patricia beamed, grabbing his arm. Tell them the news. Tell them about the real career you just landed. Tyler puffed out his chest. I just got hired as a junior marketing associate. It's a big deal. Full benefits, 401k, the works. It's with a massive development group downtown. A real corporation. Patricia emphasized, looking directly at me. Not a startup, not a little studio, a massive established company, a place with a future. That's great, Tyler, I said genuinely. Marketing is a tough field. Who's the company? It's a holding group called H&S Ventures, Tyler said proudly. They handle massive construction, logistics, and design marketing. They're huge. My coffee mug paused halfway to my mouth. H&S Ventures. My heart did a little flip. H&S stood for Helix and Stone. It was the parent company I had incorporated 3 years ago to handle the administrative and marketing side of my architecture firm, so my creative team didn't have to deal with payroll and HR. I stared at Tyler. He had no idea, never heard of them. I lied smoothly, taking a sip. Of course you haven't. Patricia scoffed. They operate in the big leagues, Michelle. They don't deal with residential remodels or whatever it is you do. My Tyler is going to be handling accounts worth more than your car. Is that so? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Yes, Patricia gloated. He's starting at $65,000 a year. Can you imagine, at 25? He's the success story of this family. Finally, someone with a real career. She looked at me with pity. Maybe Tyler can put in a good word for you. They must need receptionists or someone to sweep the drafting floors. The rage flared in my chest, hot and sharp, but then a different emotion took over. Amusement, cold, calculating amusement. The following Monday, I walked into my office on the 40th floor. The view of Lake Michigan was pristine. My business partner, James, was already in the conference room waiting for our weekly briefing. James was the operational genius to my creative chaos. We had built this place from the ground up. "Morning, boss," James said, sliding a coffee across the glass table. "Morning," I said, sitting down and opening my laptop. "James, did we just hire a junior marketing associate for the H&S wing?" James frowned, tapping his tablet. "Yeah, HR cleared a batch of new hires last week for the marketing push on the museum project." "Why, is one of them named Tyler Vance?" James scrolled. "Tyler Vance. Yes, 25, University of Illinois grad. Decent portfolio, a bit generic, but the team liked his enthusiasm. He starts today." "Why, do you know him?" "He's my cousin," I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. "Oh, that's great," James said. "Does he know you own the place? We can organize a welcome lunch." "No," I said sharply. "He has absolutely no idea, and I want to keep it that way." James looked confused. "Michelle, what's going on?" "My Aunt Patricia, his mother's, spent the entire weekend telling me that my company is a joke and that Tyler's new job with H&S Ventures is the only real career in the family. She thinks I'm a starving artist." James laughed, a deep belly laugh. He looked around our sleek, multi-million-dollar office. "She thinks this is a joke. She thinks H&S is some giant corporate entity completely unrelated to me." Tyler evidently didn't do his research on who the S in H&S stands for. "Stone," James said. "Michelle Stone, exactly. So, what's the play?" James asked, leaning forward. "Let him work?" I said, "Let him settle in, let him feel important, and let Patricia brag. I want to see how far they take this." For the next 2 months, I operated like a ghost. I had HR flag Tyler's file so that all his major approvals went through me, but I kept my name off the automated emails. I used my initials M.S. for everything. Tyler was average. I watched his progress from a distance. He was late 3 times in his first month. He missed a deadline on a social media rollout for one of our eco-friendly housing projects. He wasn't terrible, but he certainly wasn't the executive prodigy. Patricia was claiming he was on Facebook. I stalked Patricia's social media from a burner account. Her posts were insufferable. "So proud of my son Tyler. He's already leading major projects at H&S. The CEO apparently loves his vision. #proud mom, #real success, #no starving artists here." I laughed out loud in my office. The CEO me had never met him in the building. Then the expense reports came in. It was a Tuesday afternoon. My assistant Sarah dropped a file on my desk. "Red flags on the marketing team expenses, Michelle." I opened the folder. Tyler had expensed $400 dinner at a steakhouse, labeling it client acquisition. Who was the client? I asked Sarah. There wasn't one. Sarah replied. He checked in on Facebook with the boys. It was a personal dinner. "He's stealing from the company," I murmured. 45 days in and he's padding expenses. "Do you want me to fire him?" Sarah asked. "No." I said, closing the file. "Not yet. The company holiday gala is in 3 weeks. Patricia has been posting about how Tyler is going to invite her as his VIP guest." "You're kidding," Sarah said. "I want him to feel safe," I said. "Reject the expense report with a warning. Let him sweat a little, but keep him employed. I want Aunt Patricia at that party." The Helix and Stone annual gala was the event of the season. We rented out the grand ballroom at the Palmer House Hilton. It was black tie, open bar, champagne towers. The works. I arrived late by design. I wore a stunning emerald green gown that cost more than Patricia's car. I entered through the VIP back entrance, avoiding the main floor crowd initially. From the balcony, I scanned the room. It didn't take long to find them. Tyler was wearing a tuxedo that he had clearly rented, looking nervous. Standing next to him, looking like she was ready to be crowned Queen of England, was Patricia. She was holding a glass of champagne, practically vibrating with self-importance. I signaled James, "It's time." James nodded and went to the microphone on the stage. The music lowered. "Good evening, everyone," James announced. "Thank you all for another record. Breaking year at Helix and Stone and H&S Ventures. Tonight is about celebrating our team." I watched Patricia down on the floor. She was whispering loudly to a woman next to her. I could read her lips. "My son works here. He's in management. We have some awards to give out," James continued. "But first, I want to introduce the person who makes this all possible, the visionary who started this company in her living room 10 years ago, our founder and CEO. I started walking down the grand staircase. The spotlight hit me, Michelle Stone. The applause was thunderous. My staff loved me. I paid them well, I respected them, and we won awards together. I reached the bottom of the stairs and walked toward the stage. As I passed table 14, I slowed down. Patricia's face was frozen. Her mouth was slightly open. She looked from me to the stage to Tyler. Tyler looked like he was going to throw up. He had gone pale white. He was realizing in real time that the M.S., who had been rejecting his expense reports and critiquing his marketing copy, was his cousin. I walked right up to them. The spotlight followed me, bathing the three of us in light. The room went quiet, sensing the tension. "Hello, Aunt Patricia," I said, my voice amplified by the acoustics of the room. I didn't need a microphone. "Michelle." Patricia stammered. She looked around frantically. What are you doing? Did you sneak in?" A few people nearby chuckled. "Sneak in." I laughed. "Patricia, welcome to Helix and Stone. You know, the little art project you told everyone about." I don't understand," she said, her voice trembling. She looked at Tyler. "Tyler, tell her to leave. You're the manager." Tyler couldn't speak. He was staring at his shoes. "Tyler isn't a manager, Patricia," I said, loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. "Tyler is a junior associate on a 90-day probation period. He works for me." Patricia's face turned a violent shade of red. "That's impossible." Tyler said he works for H&S Ventures, a major corporation. H&S, I repeated slowly. "Helix and Stone. I am the Stone." The realization hit her like a freight train. Her eyes widened. "But," she sputtered, "but you're a failure. You just draw pictures. Tyler has a real career. He makes $65,000 a year." "Yes," I said, stepping closer, my voice dropping to a lethal calm. "He does, and do you know why he makes that?" I leaned in, "because I signed his offer letter, and I sign his paycheck every single 2 weeks. The silence in the ballroom was deafening. "You told me my money wasn't real," I continued. "You told the family I was playing pretend. Meanwhile, I was funding your son's big break. I built this empire, Aunt Patricia, and the only reason your son is in this room eating my food and drinking my champagne is because I allowed it." Patricia looked like she was shrinking. For the first time in her life, she had absolutely nothing to say. I turned my gaze to Tyler, and "Tyler, the expense report for the steak dinner with the boys, it's rejected. Again, don't try to steal from me." I turned on my heel and walked up the stairs to the stage, leaving them in the wreckage of their own ego. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Patricia and Tyler left the party 5 minutes later. They didn't even finish their drinks. The next morning, the family group chat, usually a source of anxiety for me, was blowing up. But this time, it wasn't Patricia bragging. It was my cousins, my uncles, and my mom, all talking about what happened. Word travels fast. Patricia tried to spin it. She told my grandmother that I had humiliated them for no reason, and that I was a cruel, power-hungry tyrant. But nobody was buying it. The narrative had shifted. I wasn't the struggling artist anymore. I was the matriarch of the family's financial success. As for Tyler, I didn't fire him. That would have been too easy. I called him into my office on Monday morning. He sat in the chair opposite my desk, looking terrified. "I'm not firing you, Tyler." I said, reviewing a blueprint. You're not," he squeaked. "No, you have potential, but you're lazy and you're entitled. You thought you were too good for this work because your mother told you that you were special." I looked up at him. "You're keeping the job, but you're on strict probation. You will report directly to James. No more padding expenses. No more showing up late. You work hard, you learn the business, and maybe, in 5 years, you'll actually be the success your mother thinks you are. Thank you, Michelle." He whispered, "MS Stone, get back to work." I said. Tyler actually turned out okay. Once he escaped his mother's delusion that he was already perfect, he started learning. He's still with the company today, a decent mid-level manager. Patricia, however, hasn't spoken to me since that night. She uninvited me from Thanksgiving that year. I didn't mind. I spent Thanksgiving in Paris. I paid for the trip with the bonus I gave myself. After all, it's nice having a real career.